Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2023 Jeep Gladiator, we're going to be showing you how to install the Redarc Tow Pro Liberty Trailer Brake Controller. But before we do that, why don't we take a minute, we'll check this one out, make sure it's going to be the right setup for you, and help you figure out exactly some of the parts that you're going to need to set up your Jeep. For those of you that are doing some general purpose towing and your trailer has brakes on it, you're going to need a way to apply the brakes. That way, you're not just relying on your Jeep to do all the stopping. And that's what a trailer brake controller like the Redarc is going to do. I'm a big fan of these Redarcs. They make several different models, and they're all top quality and great choices. They just flat out work. They're reliable. And one of the things I'm a huge fan of is how they look, right? So the main body of the brake controller is going to be tucked up underneath the dash here to where you can't see it at all. And the only thing that you're going to have to see is this little control knob. So not taking up any space, blends right in, and looks almost like a factory type option. You know, over the more what I call traditional type brake controllers like this one here. A little bit bulkier in size. You know, it'd generally be mounted up on the dash. And on a vehicle like the Jeep, not having a ton of room to begin with, you know, this could get annoying pretty quick. So something you're not going to have to worry about with this little control knob. This particular controller is going to work with trailers that have either one or two axles. So pretty much covers everything that the Gladiator's likely to be pulling, as well as trailers that have your standard electric brakes, as well as the electric over hydraulic. So really versatile, works in a lot of scenarios. This is a brake controller that is more or less a proportional type controller, and that's what I usually recommend for, you know, the vast amount of people out there, unless you're in a special circumstance. So what proportional means is it's going to apply the trailer's brakes more or less at the same rate as how hard you're hitting the brakes in your Jeep. So for example, let's say if you're halfway on the brake pedal rolling up to a stop sign or something, the trailer is going to act in a similar manner. On the other hand, let's say if you put the pedal down to the floor, you got to stop quick, the trailer is going to do the same thing. And so from my experience, that just kind of makes your braking experience a little more predictable, you know, with the trailer kind of replicating what you're doing in the Jeep. Makes it a little bit more comfortable and things like that. With all that said, for those of you looking for a little bit more control or maybe something a little bit different, you know, there's another Redarc called the Tow Pro Trail, and this will be ideal for those of you that not only do your regular general purpose towing, but if you happen to go off-roading or, you know, on super rough roads, overlanding, whatever the case may be, and you're pulling your trailer, this is more or less suited for those types of situations. You get the type of control that we just talked about for your normal everyday driving, but then you also have the off-road mode, which gives you more user control that works out a little bit better in that type of situation. The knob that's mounted up on the dash, right, that's how you're going to control everything and make adjustments. So you have 0 up to 10, and that's going to allow you to adjust your brake force. Usually you can start somewhere there in the middle, but let's say maybe your trailer is empty and you're going to pick up a load or whatever it is you're getting. Probably don't need a whole lot of extra brake force, right? So you can turn that down to 2 or 3, whatever. But then you're loaded up, it's heavy, could use a little bit of extra force. You can ramp that up a little bit higher, and that'll allow you to really kind of dial everything in and fine tune it, if you will. There's also sway control, or a lot of people know it as manual override. So whenever you just push the button down, you can see that light illuminating. That's going to send power back just to the trailer's brakes, and you would use that a lot of times in the event of a sway situation. Trailer starts to get away from you a little bit. If you could push that down and ideally kind of feather the power lightly to it, that'll slow the trailer back down and get everything back under control. You are able to get these controllers in a couple of different configurations. Some of them that come with the custom fit adapter plug. That allows you to plug right into your factory tow package, and that's the setup that we have here today on our Gladiator. But you know, chances are pretty good every single Gladiator may not be set up like ours. And so if that's the case, there's a controller that comes with a universal type plug, and you know, you'll need that and a few other parts to kind of make everything happen. But you know, that's one of the big things a lot of people wonder, what parts am I going to need? So let's walk you through that now. The very first thing that you want to check on your Jeep is here at the back. And if you have the factory 7-way plug, things are looking really good. Chances are pretty good that you do have that factory tow package plug. So that's what you'd want to do next. You'd want to go underneath the dash on the driver's side and look up there and try to locate the factory tow package trailer brake controller connector plug. If you have that connector plug and the factory 7-way, then you can use the kit that comes with the custom fit plug and allows you to utilize all those components. If you come to find out that you don't have those components, you can still get a brake controller like this installed, right? You're just gonna have to use a few more parts. One of them, you wanna start with a 4-way flat trailer wiring harness to kind of build off of. And then you could use the etrailer.com universal brake controller install kit, and also a stoplight switch kit made by Roadmaster. And by utilizing all those in conjunction with you know, this brake controller that comes with the universal type plug, that'll allow you to get everything hooked up and working. In our case, I also picked up this mounting bracket made by Redarc. It doesn't come with the trailer brake controller, but it did make mounting up our you know, main unit much more straightforward and easy. So that's always an option that you could use as well. You don't have to. I've used other brackets and stuff in the past, kind of made stuff work, but if you don't have extra parts and stuff laying around the house, might be worth grabbing this to make the installation a little bit easier. But other than that, at the end of the day, you know, a great all-around trailer brake controller. We do a ton of these things here. You know, work in just about any situation, and they look good. So really can't ask for too much more. As far as the installation process goes, on ours, having that connector plug, super straightforward. Plugged into it, mounted up the main unit, mounted up the knob there, and call it a day, really. So really shouldn't give you too many issues. With that said, you know, if this is something you don't even want to mess with, you can always use our dealer locator, and that can help you find a shop in your neighborhood that can do something like this for you. But if you're going to give it a go, hang around, we'll go ahead and get started on it now. To begin our installation, we're going to be here in the front seat of our Gladiator, and we're going to be working underneath the dash. That way we can locate the factory connector plug for our adapter here. To give us some more visibility, this panel can be popped off, and you can just do it by hand. There's just a couple of plastic clips holding it in. So just carefully start to work it off here. And then we can just set this to the side. Here's the connector plug that you're looking for. I did put a piece of gray tape around it just to help you identify it. With that said, it's usually right up here in this location, kind of tucked up. A lot of times the factory will have it taped, which ours was, and just pull that tape off, pull it down, and give you a little bit more room to work. With the factory plug located, now we can take our adapter and plug that in. So on one end of it, it'll match up with that factory connection. And given the amount of space that we have under there, I'll go ahead, plug this into it, and show you what it looks like. Here's how it looks once it's plugged in, and it only plugs in one way, so you can't really do it backwards or anything. If it's fighting you and not wanting to connect, you know, try to rotate the connector and get everything hooked up. At this point, we can mount up our controller. Now you can mount these in any orientation that you want, as long as it's secure. You know, don't just zip tie it to some wires or anything like that. In our case, on our Gladiator here, I'm actually going to use the Redarc mounting bracket here, which you can get separately. And I think I picked out a good spot be able to do something along these lines, attach a bracket to the controller, and then be able to drill a hole and mount this to a metal part under the dash. After attaching the controller to our mounting bracket, I think I'm going to go in this area right here and drill a hole through this metal using a nut and a bolt to secure that. But after looking at it being kind of tucked up in there like that, I think it might be hard to actually get to the connectors. So I think it's a good idea to plug them in first before we mount that up. So on one end of the controller, you can take this adapter that's coming from our factory connector plug, plug that right in. And then the other side, you'll get this harness with your controller. One end has a 90-degree bend in it, but I think in this case, the end that has the straight side will work a little bit better. You can use either one, totally up to you, but this is what I'm going to do. Whenever you're getting ready to drill a hole to mount up your bracket to this piece of metal, if you're setting it up like we are today, be careful on what's going on behind that bracket. You don't want to drill in any wires or anything of importance, So one thing I'm going to do, I have a little piece of metal here I'm just going to put behind that, just kind of as a stopper. But a piece of wood or something will work the same way. Got that drilled out now. You can position this how you want it, just making sure it's clear of moving components and stuff like that. Take the bolt that we got with our bracket and we'll secure it down. With that all secure now and everything, we just need to find a spot to mount up our switch. And really there's no limitations with this. As long as the cord from the brake controller will reach it and this will fit behind one of these panels, that's where you can put it. So we'll check out a few spots and see what we want to go with. After looking around, I think we're going to mount our switch up on our panel, kind of here towards the bottom. On the back side of it, it's nice and open. Under the dash, it's open. And I think that'll be our best bet. In the past, I have been able to mount the knobs in the center console here, in this area, or even off to the side. It kind of just depends. You have to take apart and see what's going on under there. I popped this one free. You can just use a trim tool and kind of pop all the clips upward and take a look what's going on. On our particular model, it is super tight. There's a lot going on in here. So I didn't want to risk drilling a hole just to come to find out our knob didn't actually fit in there. But that's totally up to you and your call. Yours might be set up different, more open in there. So that's what we're going to do now, is focus on getting it mounted up to our dash panel. On our panel, I put some tape down, made a little mark where we want to mount up our knob. And I'm going to start with a smaller drill bit just to kind of make a pilot hole here. And I'll change it out to the final size. With our larger hole already created, what I like to do is take this little template deal that they give you, line that up, and you want this little part here that's protruding out to face the 12 o'clock position. So what I did, held that over it, and then just use this as a template to make a little mark on our plastic. That way we can drill this hole out, and this will more or less let the little light on the knob kind of pass through this opening. With both holes drilled out, you can use this. That can snap into place there. You don't really have to. I usually don't. And to be honest, too, the panel on this is relatively thick. I'm afraid if you do use this, it's not going to the switch isn't going to be able to protrude far enough out. So I'll set that to the side, and we'll take our switch, get that lined up. You'll have this little nut here. And drop that through. And be careful starting this. The switch, it's pretty small, and you don't want to just kind of blindly start threading away here and cross-thread anything. So take your time with it. Make sure it's catching correctly. And go from there. And sometimes too, it's not super uncommon. You may have to enlarge a hole just a little bit more or something like that to get everything to line up right. Once you get that nut started and you're confident you're not, cross-threading it or anything, I'd take a 12mm socket and just by hand snug it down. You don't need to get crazy or too carried away. And then the little dial there, if you turn that all the way left or counterclockwise, then you can take the knob and you want the 0 to be in that 12 o'clock position. That just pushes right onto it. Back inside of our Jeep, you can now take the other end of that connector, plug that right into the back of our control switch. We'll just reinstall this panel the opposite way that we removed it. Before we get too carried away, cleaning up all of our wiring and stuff under the dash, a good idea just to do a quick test, make sure the brake controller is getting power and everything like that. So I just plugged into a test box. It simulates a trailer. You can use your trailer at home, but keep in mind if it happens to have any issues on its own, could mislead you into thinking it's something you did wrong on the vehicle side. Now that we're plugged in, we do have power. You can see the control knob is lit up. It's flashing green and blue, so we know we're good there. I'll come back. Our wires that we left underneath, I'll zip tie them up. Just make sure you're not wrapped around the steering column or any moving parts. Get them out of the way. But what this means, this green and blue flashing, is it needs to be calibrated. And once it's calibrated, it'll go to a solid blue color. And the way that you would do that is just to make normal braking events. You don't have to be hooked up to a trailer or a test box. You can do it with everything unhooked. But if it's unhooked, you're kind of guessing. You won't see the lights flashing or changing or anything. So you just drive, make normal stops, and eventually it'll learn itself. It's usually pretty fast. From my experience, it's usually 6 or 10 stops. But it could take up to 20. So that's what you need to do, and then the controller will be ready for use. After driving around for a bit and hitting our brakes, we have our controller calibrated by the steady blue color. And we are good to go and ready to use it. So with that all wrapped up, that'll do it for our look at and our installation of the Redarc Tow Pro Liberty Trailer Brake Controller on our 2023 Jeep Gladiator.